Hey, what's up, guys? Charles Van Mediva here again, MilitaryHomeBuyerToday.com. Had a real special guest. I don't know how we got this guy on the show. It is not every day that you get to talk face-to-face with a prior loan guarantee officer at the Department of VA. How about that? This guy right here ran the show for quite a while. And Jeff is now the VP of Military Lending at Caliber Home Loans, which is one of the wholesale lenders that we can broker to. So it's an honor for me to have him here. And boy, I tell you, I'm going to bombard this gentleman with a lot of VA questions. And he should know, right? He wrote policy for the VA, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And not only that, Jeff is a retired Army Major, 21 and a half years. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And also, obviously, you are the guy that has a heart for the military. You want to make sure that your entire life. And they want to, not only when you served, but now that you're out, I can tell talking to you that you want to make sure things are done right.
Absolutely.
For the veteran. So I have a bunch of questions. And I want to start with, if there was one thing that you could, with a flick of a pen, change about the VA Home Loan Program tonight, what would that be? And why?
And why? I think the one thing that I would change would be the requirement for an actual point statement for Reserve and National Guard veterans.
Wow. Okay.
I'd get rid of it completely.
It's very cumbersome, right?
It's cumbersome. It's a bit arbitrary.
Okay.
And it has caused problems especially for older veterans who have a real tough time trying to find those point statements.
Wow.
You take a veteran from the 1950s and 60s in the Reserve National Guard. About 1 out of every 50 or 60 actually might have a point statement.
So in reality, have there been some veterans that just could not pursue a VA loan because they couldn't get?
Absolutely.
Wow.
There have been
That's really
veterans
sad.
who have been denied because they could not find point statements.
Did you ever at the VA see files that had been declined for credit reasons that you felt like, that should have been a loan that was made to that veteran?
Sure.
Maybe there were extenuating circumstances.
Sure. I have all the time. A lot.
Really?
Yes.
You're watching this, you're an underwriter, hey, you better pay attention.
It's interesting because a lot of lenders take the mindset that if it's a refer, we shouldn't be doing this loan.
What's your take on that?
Refer.
Right. What do you say to that?
I take the VA policy on that.
Okay.
VA's stand is that an AUS system is a recommendation. It's not a decision. It's not a decision-making tool. The VA wants an underwriter to look at every loan. So if it's a purchase or if it's a cash-out refi, if it's a full doc loan, they think that an underwriter should be looking at that. Yes, they'll accept the AUS systems because the AUS systems are a fact of industry.
And they're safe, right? You hide behind them.
If you hide behind them, yes. But at the same moat and the same tone, I mean, how many credit scores have you seen in the low 600s that you just scratch your head and think, why the heck is this thing at low 600s?
Right. Can I say this? What I struggle with is very often conveying to an underwriter, hey, this person's credit crimes should be looked at as isolated events. They're not an expression of negligence. I don't care. I'm reckless. Look, I pay all these other bills on time. I happen to have messed up on these few. Please give me a VA loan. But it's unbelievable that a lot of underwriters don't think that way, right?
That's true, because a lot of underwriters look at things almost a little too conservatively. Sometimes they don't even look at things the way they themselves act.
Wow.
I've seen underwriters with bad credit.
Sure.
It happens.
Yeah.
And quite often, those same underwriters are pretty darn conservative on their underwriting.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't blame it on the underwriters either. I think a lot of it has to go back to corporate policy and what is your corporate overlay? What is your corporate policy looking at?
Sure.
So a lot of corporations, a lot of mortgage industry companies have fairly strong overlays.
Right.
And the underwriters are forced to live with those overlays. That's the way they are. They're not given room to make a reasonable decision.
I know there's a clause in the VA handbook, and I have to paraphrase because I don't remember how it reads exactly, but it was something, the spirit of it was telling the underwriter to look for and find ways to justify doing a loan, right? To find a proper basis for approving it, not the reverse, not for I'm trying to find a way to kill this deal.
Well, I like to paraphrase it over the years. It's real simple: approve if you can, deny if you must. And because realistically, what people forget is that this is a benefit program. It's not an FHA loan. It's not a conventional loan. It's a benefit program.
Okay.
And so, because that veteran has earned that benefit.
Yes.
Look at it such that if you feel that the veteran served properly, the loan is reasonable. Might not be the most perfect loan in the business, but look at the history of veterans lending. Veteran loans have some of the best returns in performance in default rates in the industry. They're right down there with prime, like somewhere around 1% in foreclosure rate across the whole portfolio. And they're predominantly zero down payments, predominantly 715 or better credit scores.
So what you're saying, which completely makes sense, and I adhere to that, is so foreign to, I'd say, the majority of underwriters who defer to the most conservative position. They're scared to make judgment calls in favor of that veteran. And quite frankly, I don't see them looking at the file as, look, this guy, I had one 3 months ago, 28 years in the Marine Corps. I mean, all kinds of deployments, a lot of problems, but he paid his bills. Sure, he had some problems. He paid the majority of the time, paid his bills, didn't get approved.
Yeah.
Do we need to be preaching that message more to the underwriting world? Is that something you do or should do?
That's part of what I do at Caliber is I look at the problem cases to try and help underwriters find a way to say yes to a loan.
Find a way to say yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Not every, and I will say this with all due sincerity, not every veteran is qualified for a loan.
Sure.
And not every veteran is qualified for the loan they want. So you run a fine line with veterans. You have to not only look at, is it good for the company that's writing the loan, but is it a good loan for the veteran? And is it a good loan for the program? Because those are the things that VA is looking at.
Sure.
Is this going to harm the program? Is this going to put the veteran in a bad position? Just because they say they can qualify for a $400,000 loan on paper doesn't necessarily mean it.
Yeah, I hear you. Looking at my other questions here, I had one particular question that came to light the other day. I'm curious what your take on this is. Service member, active duty, getting ready to get discharged within the next 12 months. Station, let's just say he's in Kalamazoo, North Carolina, let's just say. And he wants to buy in Southern California, right? And he's 9 months out from his EAS. How do you look at that situation? There is a specific event in the future. To talk to us about that, because most underwriters say, no, I can't do it, won't do it.
Well, that's the nice part about the particular part of Chapter 3 in the Lender's Handbook as far as occupancy is concerned. That particular occupancy question is absolutely acceptable to VA.
Really?
Yes.
Well, praise the Lord. Sorry,
praise the Lord. VA looks at occupancy. And because the law is written, the law says the veteran must intend to occupy the property. It's
within a reasonable amount of time.
No, the law doesn't say that. The law says the veteran must intend to occupy the property. VA's the regulation says within a reasonable period of time, but it doesn't define reasonable.
Sure.
So VA by policy has defined reasonable as 60 days. In the normal course of business, you should be moving into your house within 60 days of closing. A lot of times you might get delayed because you may be doing remodeling or what have you. It takes, 15, 20 days just to move sometimes when you get off work so you can actually move. So, it might be a month to 2 months in order to, on the normal course of business. But when you've got a certain date forward, an event in life that's going to happen that you can pinpoint, that's going to happen on that date.
And you can pinpoint the occupancy to happen at that time.
So at that point in time, VA says that they'll accept that up to a year. So if you've got a veteran who's leaving service in the next 11 months, say 11 months from now, and they know that, in February in 2021, I'm retiring. I'm done. I got my 20 years. I'm done. You could buy a house in Southern California and intend to move there. Now, I would caution anybody from renting that house during that 11 months.
Sure.
Because then it becomes an investment property. And then you have a hard time explaining that I'm really only going to rent it for only 11 months, and I'm going to throw more tenants out.
And more than likely, would you, from an underwriting perspective, have to hit them for...
If I were an underwriter, I would not even approve that if somebody said, well, I'm going to rent it.
Right.
What you're going to have to look at is how are you going to afford that house for the next 11 months on top of your current living expenses.
In closing, any message that you would put out there to the underwriting world, those guys and girls that are making these decisions that basically impact people's lives. I mean, either you're getting that loan in that home or you're not.
Right.
What would you say to an underwriter watching this?
Well, I think an underwriter has to accept the way VA has written their guidelines. Chapter 4 of the VA Lender's Handbook is really only about 70 pages long. And that's supposed to cover everything you need to know about underwriting. And that doesn't say you shall not do this, you shall not do that. In most cases, it says generally you can't do this, or generally you can't do that. But the VA uses the term generally to give the underwriter the ability to do the best they can for the veteran for that benefit. So if they can find a reason to say yes to that loan, they would prefer that you do that, as long as it's not going to harm the veteran or the program.
Right.
So don't, unless it specifically says thou shalt not,
Sure.
then if you can find a reason to justify it, VA is probably not going to override your decision. In fact, that's one of the things they tell their staff in-house that do audits. Don't interject your own underwriting thoughts onto the loan. You didn't write that loan. Look to see to make sure they didn't break a rule or provide somebody a loan that should not have gotten a loan, or make a loan on a property that should not have been done.
Should have been done, sure. Which is going to hurt the veteran,
which
ultimately.
is going to ultimately hurt the veteran and the program.
Sure.
Because VA will end up potentially with a house they can't do anything with.
Right.
So, if it doesn't say you can't do it, and I'm not going to say this outright, go ahead and do it. But if it's not illegal, not immoral, and you are not prohibited from doing it, and it makes sense, then make sense. Document your loan file as to why you believe it makes sense, and maybe you need to go to an underwriting manager or an underwriting VP. But argue your case why you think it should be made.
Should be made. Good stuff.
Don't just stop because you don't think it meets the rule particularly.
Right. Jeff, you're a great resource. Thank you for taking this much time. And I dare say you're like the backbone at Caliber behind their VA program. Great to have you there.
Well, I think
as a resource.
It's a great company. I'm so happy to be there because they have the mindset. They've, from the top down, from Sanjeev all the way down, they've built a program to help veterans. We have our own veterans department that helps us get through the questions and problems that come up on VA loans.
Wow, it's wonderful. Super. If you guys are watching this, we, as a mortgage broker, we broker 2 Caliber home loans. I know you guys have your retail arm as well. And so great to have someone like Jeff. If we have an unusual or a quickie VA situation, there's probably not a whole lot that you don't know the answer to, I would think.
And I think the best part is if I don't know the answer, I know who to call.
And they'll probably take your call as opposed to mine.
Most of the time.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information. Thank you for your service, too. And I know we'll have you here again another time.
I want to thank you, too, for having me here. I think it's wonderful. And again, wonderful that you do business with Caliber. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we hope we can do more for veterans here in Temecula and all throughout Southern California.
We will, together. Thank you again.
All right.
Guys, if you're watching this, tune in for the next show at militaryhomebuyertoday.com. You have a wonderful day.